We light this chalice for everyone in the congregation, celebrating the flame of faith lit in each of us.
Honoring the light each of us bring into the world, rejoicing in the community we create together.
Noticing the beauty around and within us, we gather to light our chalice. We appreciate the beauty of abundance and diversity, and cherish one another and our earth.
We light this chalice to remind ourselves to treat all people kindly, because they are all our siblings. To take good care of the earth, because it is our home. To live life full of goodness and love, because that is how we will all become the best people we can be. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom.
We light our flaming chalice each week with a simple spark to make holy our time together. With this flame, may our highest intentions be refreshed, and with this flame, may we remember who we are and whose we are. With this flame, may our faith be renewed and reignited to guide our journey. Amen, and may it be so.
As we celebrate life's beauty, may we never forget that we are part of it. It is woven around us, through us, and between us. We are here to notice those elegant strands, the way they call to us, the way they hold us, the way they connect us. May our time together today enable that beauty to shine.
I Go Down to the Shore, a poem for the summer, by Mary Oliver. I go down to the shore in the morning, and depending on the hour, the waves are rolling in or moving out. And I say, oh, I am miserable. What should I do? And the sea says in its lovely voice, excuse me, I have work to do. Friends, we have work to do today. Because worship, they say, is the work of the people, not the work of or mostly ministers like myself and Reverend Karin, or even amazing musicians like those gathered here today, including Shwai, who just played so beautifully. No, worship is the work of the people, all the people. And so whoever you are, wherever you join us from, arriving from congregations all around our nation's capital and further afield, including Massachusetts and Binghamton, New York, welcome. Ready to get to work? For the work of the people is hosted on this day by this congregation, River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and you are most welcome here. You are also welcome to keep the work going as it moves around the Beltway next week to our friends at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Arlington, Virginia, and at the end of the month, just down the road, to our partners in Good Trouble at Cedar Lane. Like the shoreline in the morning, the work of the people in worship is always changing. It is sometimes chaotic. It is occasionally beautiful. And it is beckoning each and every day for us to return to it and be restored. In that spirit, welcome indeed to this place. Come, let us worship together, and from right where you are, wherever you are, remaining seated, I invite you, as you are willing and able, to join in singing if you choose. Our opening hymn invites us to find a note of praise in the midst of everything. Number 108 and your gray hymnals, My Life Flows On.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far-off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest
It helps to turn on our microphones. Here at River Road, our time for all ages, we call prophetic voices. It's a time to lift up the wisdom of prophets near to hand across traditions and across history. And I want to begin our time of prophetic voices by inviting you to picture a little slice of summer with me. A perfect, beautiful, long and slightly scary rope swing hangs from a high branch. It's a high branch that leans out on a gnarled old tree over a perfect swimming hole on Cape Cod. And if you go there early enough in the morning that the fog has not burned off the branches of the surrounding woods quite yet, it feels almost like another world. Like you've entered the realm of beauty itself. Now, you can't drive there to this swimming hole. It is physically impossible. There is no way that our big cars in their gas-guzzling ways can enter this realm of the fairies. No, you have to walk there down a seemingly endless succession of right turns until you arrive and the pond appears as if revealing itself a mirage in the overhanging trees. Now, at some point in history, we don't know when, some brave soul climbed that tree and got to that branch and hung that rope swing, and my family goes there to that pond every single summer. Now, at this point, even the kindergartners jump up on that rope, and with their perfect little life vests, they float out over the wide open air and they plunge laughing and screaming at the same time into the water. You know how that goes? The fear and the delight all mushed up together? And it occurs to me that somewhere, sometime, in the history of our family, there must have been one of us who looked at that rope and looked at all of us and said, "I'll go first. I'll do the scary and brave thing, and maybe I'll laugh. I'll go first so that all of you can be braver too." And at this point, I mean, we all go. My son Josiah is working on a bat flip. It all happens. And it occurs to me that over the course of time and history, we are not the first people to need one brave soul to say, "I will go first," to take the plunge to assure the rest. Have you ever walked down a dark basement staircase or through a garden gate that looked a little creepy and known that all it would take for you to be braver than you ever imagined was for someone else to say, "Don't be afraid, I'll go first"? I'll go first, say the heroes and the loved ones and the ones who frankly are a little too brave. I will go first, they say, and suddenly we might find that we are braver too. And this week, for our prophetic voices, I've been thinking about the stories we tell about who goes first and who shows us we don't need to be afraid because we're not alone. Do you know that in the combined scriptures of the Hebrew and Christian traditions, the phrase "do not be afraid" appears 365 times? Time and again, especially in Hebrew stories, the people face big, scary things together, and they tell stories not just about a big, scary God, but about a God that isn't about judgment or bossiness or fear. Over and over again, the people tell stories which say that God's most important job is to make sure the people don't feel alone, to help the people be brave enough to go first and swing out over the unknown to show the way for others. And there's an ancient book called Deuteronomy, in which the Hebrew people are taking big, big risks. They're taking an adventure they're not sure they really want to take, and their God comes to them in that story and says just this: "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified of the people who would hurt you, for I go with you. I will never leave you or forsake you. You do not have to be afraid. I'll go first, and we'll go together. And perhaps when we have been brave together, we will find that we can laugh and cry at the same time. We will be proud of ourselves, and what seemed scary once might become a reason to know your own strength. I'll go first," says the Holy. You do not have to be afraid. And I wonder today, for all of us in every place of every age in your life, in the past or the present or the future that stretches out in this day. I wonder who has turned to you in word or in deed and said, "Do not be afraid. I'll go first." I wonder who you might offer such courage to yourself. I wonder how brave we can be together.
Good morning. Our joys and sorrows today are written by Nancy. As we gather today across many congregations, whether you are with us here in the sanctuary at River Road, with us in the worship services, all in your community, or joining us online, we know that you have joys and sorrows that move in your life and the lives of those you love. We invite you, as you are moved now or at any part of the service, to silently light a candle for that which is closest to your heart today, knowing that there are some things we lift up for every soul among us. This week, we send out healing energy to this nation as we watch the January 6th hearings and ponder what it means to live in the aftermath of such destruction. May hope and history rhyme in the days and years to come, and may we be sustained through it all by our communities. For all those we have lost or fear to lose, our struggle in this next wave of the pandemic, for the families rejoicing in a new vaccine, for the littlest ones while also struggling to make it through the summer safe and healthy, for each of us weighing our risks and protecting each other, and for the safety we can only find in mutual love and care. Finally, in this season, we lift our eyes to the stars as images from the NASA's Webb telescope make their way across our world. We know that the galaxies dance together deep within the history of our universe. Each huge collection of gas and dust and stars stretching out to meet each other. Baby stars shine out in the dimming glow of all that went before them, and we are held in the mystery. We are held in this mystery by the universe and in the arms of each other.
I want to invite you, as you hold your own joys and concerns in your heart today, to take as good a seat as you possibly can, even if the chair is uncomfortable, and a deep breath for a word of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, source of love, how can it be possible for this world and our lives within it to cram so much beauty and so much hurt so close at hand? In this bright summer, when the sunlight streams with unrelenting heat 1 hour before the storm clouds break, may we find the courage to hold it all in our hearts, both the sunshine and the storm, both the courage and the fear, both the rest and the sure knowledge of the work that lies ahead. May we in this place and connected across these congregations know that the work that is ours to do does not have to be work that merely exhausts us, but that fills us up. For, as the saints and the sages have said so many times, we forget to hear them, we are the ones we have been waiting for. In this time when stars collide, when galaxies dance, may we remember that we too bounce off of one another and off of all that is holy, and that nothing we do alone. There are no solos in the dance of the universe, only one interconnected whole that holds us and calls us each by name and gives us occasion to behold in ourselves and in one another both our broken hearts and our beauty. For all this, may we be grateful. Amen, and blessed be.
Lovely. Thank you. If we haven't met yet, I'm Reverend Karen Rasmussen, and your affiliate minister here at River Road. If you're around me for, say, about 10 minutes or so, I'm really passionate about feeding kids and rescuing dogs. It's true. Not too long ago, I was talking from this pulpit about work that I do feeding kids, and after the service, I met this guy named Dave. He had a cap on his head and a child in his arms, and he talked to me for a few minutes about how we might feed some kids in D.C. And that's how To Be Well Fed, with this wonderful River Road family of Dave and Alicia and their kids Luther and Abdisa in Memphis, got started. By this family having the courage, the guts to say, all kids deserve to be well fed and we can do something about it. And Nancy, didn't they rescue a dog too? That too. So be still my beating heart, they're feeding kids and rescuing dogs. So one meal at a time, one snack at a time, this family started on this journey of creating a nonprofit that feeds kids in schools right here in D.C. So close by. We're not talking about feeding kids in another country or another state or another coast, but right here, our neighbors in D.C. You will see in the slides in just a second the operation this fabulous family has set up. Shopping and rescuing fruits and vegetables, picking up pallets of food and loading and unloading, then loading and unloading some more, and then delivering much needed food to 3 schools in D.C. Rain or shine, snow or heat or hail, their van is loaded with food for the families nearby that need it so much. And do you know that this loving community here at River Road gave them dedicated space downstairs to use as storage and loading base? We call it the Epic Room because epic work happens for this community right here. When Alicia blew her knee out recently, Nancy and the River Roaders stepped up to help because these families in D.C. need us. The deliveries continued. Epic stuff. You'll see in the slides the epic work that this family does. Let's all have the courage to donate epically today. We are so proud of the work that this family does. We are so proud of To Be Well Fed. Thank you.
Y'all, let's Unitarian Universalists not do little things, let's do epic things. And so it was in 2017, after that sermon by Reverend Karen, when the Kivra family decided to do a very brave thing indeed. Their nonprofit, To Be Well Fed, began that year to provide food support to students in the Congress Heights neighborhood of D.C. And the mission from the very beginning was for students to arrive at school every single day, not hungry or afraid, but ready to learn and grow and do brave things that will change the world and serve us all. Now, the dangerous truth here in our nation's capital is that food apartheid is very real in Washington, D.C. In Ward 3, one of the wealthier wards of our city, there is a grocery store for every 9,336 residents. In Ward 8, there is a grocery store for every 85,160 residents. That is a stat big enough to make a whole lot of people shy away from even trying to make a difference. But brave people start small. And with just 5 weekend meal bags per week for students at one single school, it all began. And then another school. Knowing that 99% of the students in the schools supported by To Be Well Fed are on free and reduced meal plans, 10% of them are homeless, and fully 40% of the violent shootings in the district happen in neighborhoods directly adjacent to the schools served by To Be Well Fed. The work is big, and the commitment grew with it. In 2019, the organization started to provide 10 bags of weekend meals and became a nonprofit because we're grown-ups and we had to get our act together. And then this great big thing happened, you might know, that changed kind of everything. when everybody had to get braver real fast because students who used to rely on school-supported breakfasts and lunches had very few options, and so we bought a van. And we started to feed whole families, and we added another school and became a program rescuing food from local farmers markets and groceries so that Ward 8 students could have healthy, fresh food and produce every single week. Now, to be well-fed operating out of a classroom right here at River Road, over the bridge and down the stairs, it managed with the unceasing dedication by the Kivra family to provide grocery support every single week, including this one, to more than 150 families in 3 schools. Rescuing food that would otherwise go to waste, providing resources, often from largely wealthy white neighborhoods, investing in those predominantly low-income, largely African-American neighborhoods in our city. It aligns us with exactly who it is we say we are, and with the core of our Unitarian Universalist 7th and 8th principles. This is what courage can do in the hardest times. And this is what you can help support now with today's offering, extending from River Road entirely to Be Well Fed and its ongoing mission. Now, you'll see on your screen in just a moment, while the music plays, while our hearts are filled with the gifts that we give each other in worship, you'll see an invitation to give that includes information for how to give to the majority of those congregations participating in worship today. And I want to encourage you to give to the brave work of your local congregation, because big, epic things are happening every Sunday morning in the place that you call home. I also want to invite you, if you'd like to join River Roaders in donating to Be Well Fed this Sunday, you can do so at our website or by texting 73256. That's 73256. For all you watching at home, you can text and To Be Well Fed is the first option in the drop-down menu. Feel free, if you would like to put To Be Well Fed in the memo line, you can, and we even have a fancy special box that you can drop real live cash in if you prefer. It's right in the back. Together, we create safety in the midst of the storm, comfort when we would otherwise go hungry, a soft place at the bottom of the free fall where not only those gathered here today, but all those we touch and learn from and grow with might safely land. And so let us give of our many gifts as we are willing and able, so we can do something epic together.
Calling it quits, you think this is easy. I swear I hurt. You call in the jury, call it a catch, without any strings attached. Well, I'm looking for a soft place to land, the forest floor, the palms of your hands. I'm looking for some place to land. I call it an ace. You gotta believe me, but you're calling me names, and not to my face, but you're calling my spade a bluff without calling it off. Well, I'm looking for a safe place to land, the forest floor, the palms of your hands. I'm looking for a safe place to land. Call me in the night, I don't mind, I don't care, I can't sleep. Call me in the day, in my car, on my way. Call call me by my name. All I want to hear you say. I'm looking for a soft place to land, the forest floor, the palms of your hands. I'm looking for a soft place to land, the forest floor, the palms of your hands, palms of your hands, the palms of your hands.
Courage doesn't arise out of nowhere. And not without, I guess, provocation, right? Because what need is there to be courageous if the world around you isn't frankly kind of scary to begin with? Most of the time, nobody is afraid to go first when you are cruising down some brightly lit corridor on the happiest day. Courage happens because the world around us and our circumstances in it give us something to be legitimately fearful about in the first dang place. And there is plenty, isn't there? It's a response to a frightening reality. Not some sui generis act of a high vaunted character and an extra special integrity reserved only for a few. No, courage happens because life is scary and we respond logically to it and find others to amplify the best of our responses. Sometimes we would all like a little less courage, frankly, or at least a little less fierce necessity for it, especially now. Sometimes we would like occasion to move through less scary places together in the first place. The vast majority of the time, being unafraid in the presence of such scary times is one heck of a lot easier in the abstract than in the moment of truth, which comes again and again and again. Consider once again with me the Hebrews, who were addressed in the book of Deuteronomy that we talked about in the story earlier. The Hebrews whom God so brazenly and with cavalier abandon tells to be strong and courageous, unafraid, because wherever they went, however hard or uncertain the work and the way ahead might be, they would not go alone. Those same Hebrew people addressed in that text in Deuteronomy are the very same ones who not so many years before marked their doorposts in blood so that death might not find them on that night. They are the very same people who made a long journey out of Egypt not because they wanted to, but because they had to if they were going to survive. In that ageless story, these ones who were told to be brave, they are the very same people who did not know for sure that the Red Sea would ever part for them. The same ones who had already come through so much loss and fear and hunger and anxiousness and oppression. These people whom the story tells not to be afraid, they are the people who suffered and died and labored and lost very nearly everything at the hands of one of the world's most oppressive empires. They are also the ones who found the power to resist, even when that, among the world's most oppressive empires, offered unceasing effort to exercise dominion over their labor and their bodies and their lives. They'd literally come through a desert And here they are in the story on the very edge of the promised land with absolutely not a thing guaranteed to them and a whole lot of trauma dragging in a long trail behind them through the desolate sands of the desert. Here they are, and God knows in such a moment they have all sorts of reasonable reasons to be afraid, do they not? And the story says that the Hebrew people who have been through so much already, they look out on this hillside where they have gathered. They look out over the stretch of desert that they have yet to cross, over the landscape of a new world that can only be transformed into their hope and dream for it through a whole heck of a lot of their own labor. And right then, when there is still so much work to do and they have already been through so much together, no matter how much trouble they have already survived, that's when God tells them not to be afraid. Be strong and courageous. The text says, do not be afraid or terrified of the people who would harm you, for I go with you. And even though the holy couldn't offer any guarantees, still less a real period of rest before the next phase of the journey to a better world began, at least there was a promise that they wouldn't be alone. And can I just take a beat here and admit that that promise seems frankly just a little bit anemic? Kind of a bum deal, really. Many of us are weary from what feels like a very long journey we have been on. Many of us suffer or are rewarded at the hands of an empire that wrestles control from the people and hands it over to the mighty again and again and again, same as it ever was. And many of us just kind of want to stop here with the long journey behind us and some good days of a long summer stretching out in front of us. Many of us just kind of want to pause here for a minute before setting out on the incredibly laborious work that lies ahead. Many of us, honestly, including me, would really like to stop right here on this journey through the desolation of an empire of pain and maybe let someone else go first on this whole building a new world thing. Because we know that though we have come so far, the rest of the journey will take yet more courage. It's courage we are not always sure that we have, and we are afraid. There was a hymn that I used to sing to myself and sing together with my congregation when I was a kid. It's based on that very same text in Deuteronomy from our story today, which captures so much of my heart's yearning in these beautiful, weary days. Some of you might know it. Be not afraid, the hymn says softly. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest, says the song. And I admit, when that phrase runs through my mind again and again, it is the rest I want most, perhaps not the following, but the rest. More than anything, that's what I want from the holy right now, as embodied in community, as manifested in the God I believe in most Sundays and alternate Thursdays, as lived in the long afternoons of a hot summer. I just want rest. And the courage to rise from that rest, equipped to do my part, to build the promised land when I can, how I can, with others who are likewise equipped for the work ahead. And that is part of why we're gathered here today in this particular way, among many congregations here this summer. It means that this Sunday, just this one, I will go first in the meaning-making department, and last Sunday, Reverend David and Leah Morris with the Fairfax congregation went first, and next Sunday, it'll be our amazing colleague, Reverend Amanda Poppy, and the Arlington congregation, and so it goes. There is work to do. There is labor to build the promised land, and none of us can do it alone, and so we rest. We pass the lead from one to another because there is nothing wrong with the building of a new world being a relay race instead of an all-out individual sprint for your survival. There is nothing wrong with our collective faith serving as comfort for the weary days. In fact, faith as a balm for the fear that comes from an unjust world is a core of our tradition as Unitarian Universalists in all of our congregations. It has always been so. Since the fiery Calvinist preacher Jonathan Edwards first proclaimed the plight of sinners in the hands of an angry God, and ever so many generations before, our theological forebears and partners in progressive religion have been the ones to proclaim a faith set free from fear, to quote another great hymn. A faith that isn't about proving ourselves or even saving our souls, but about sustaining our spirits, because the journey is long and the work of the people holds within it few guarantees, and we can only do it if we do it together. We are among the inheritors of that proud theological tradition that's manifested in the Hebrew and Christian scriptures and amplified by the early universalists, who chose to point out that God is not just the judge sent to chasten the people, but the companion sent to accompany us into the scary places, and the Holy One who inspires us to accompany each other. We all know, because it's really obvious, about all the smiting and the condemnation, texts that history has made sacred. None of that is breaking news. But there are also all 365 references in those very same stories to not being afraid, not of God, not of the powers and principalities that would harm us, not of the future that beckons, and not of each other. Be not afraid. Inside 365 references to faith being stronger than fear are not only reminders that the holy can go first into the scary places, but reminders that we can lead the way for each other. The book of the prophet Isaiah, it has this great line that says that the Holy One will hold your hand in the hardest of times. But it also has this other great line, and I quote from chapter 41, verse 6 and 7, it says, "People, help one another. Say to each other, take heart. The craftsman must encourage the goldsmith. The man who beats out a rhythm with the hammer encourages the man who strikes the anvil. People, help one another." And it is only in this, in moving through the unknown places together and trading the lead this day and the next, me, and then you, and then you, and then you, and then all of us, in sustaining ourselves just as the Spirit sustained the people in days of old. It is only in doing this that we have a snowball's chance in hell of building the new way we like to proclaim from these our pulpits. As connected as we are, wrote the advocate and author Phoebe Ing, as connected as we are to friends, to family, to each other, we often feel that we are ultimately on our own as we make our way through life, and that can be a frightening prospect. We can overcome this fear only by reaching out to one another and in shared courage, letting ourselves learn. We know, because we've paid at least some modicum of attention, we know what's ahead of us on this journey that is not over. We know what's ahead of us as a people, as congregations, even as a nation. That the late 20th century's seemingly political convergence in the mushy middle is splintering ever more fully into an entrenchment of two nations within one, where laws and governance and voting rights and the fundamental cohesion of the country itself are increasingly at risk. With fear-mongering forces within American religion itself driving the wedge further and further into deadly directions, we know that the promised land, where there truly is faith set free from fear, and where we need not quake at the mere prospect of meeting our neighbor and the harm they might cause us, we know that promised land lies still a long way away. We also know how very far across a desert we have already come in this nation. We know the journey at our backs, and we know the promised land that stretches still very far out in the future, and we know that the way between them will not walk itself. The work will be hard, the way will be long, even still. We know all of this, and we are not fooled, nor comforted out of our awareness of the stark reality before us. Perhaps we, like the Hebrews with the desert behind them and before them, are justifiably afraid that we will never make it to the promised land alive. But then there comes a whisper over one shoulder or the other, from within us, from among us, from beyond us. Look here, it says, all of you. Do you see that scary, beautiful thing that stretches out over the horizon? See how you can just make it out in the dim morning light before the haze burns off of the trees, how it appears like magic of a new world around the next bend in the long, long road you've already traveled. Do you see that scary, beautiful thing that waits? I'll go first, and we'll go together. Don't be afraid, or if you are, don't stay that way too long, because none of us goes alone. And when you let go of the fear, when you let yourself swing wide and free over the vast arching space and splash down into the water below, when the desert days are finally done and you swim with strong arms toward that shore that was once so distant, and you pull it ever closer to your own grasping, know now that you will do it as a part of a community that will not let you go, will not let you down, and will not let you off the hook. Do not be afraid. This time I'll go first. And when I am tired, you will take the lead, and we'll go together. Take your rest when you can, and follow me until it is my turn to follow you. What a world we can build when we are very, very brave for each other.
Shall we gather by the river, where bright angel feet have trod, with its crystal tide forever flowing by the throne of God? Yes, we'll gather by the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints by the river that flows by the throne of God. Soon we'll see the shining river
Good Lord, Marty. You know, nothing epic or remotely brave happens alone, and Sunday morning, it is kind of a brave thing, even just to show up among beloved friends and strangers, just to turn on the screen and invite the opportunity to make meaning. We are so grateful for the people who have helped us make meaning today, for Schwei and Cliff, for Marty and Grace, for Dave and Marcia in our tech booth right here at River Road. And take a moment, no matter what congregation you are a part of, to lift up a prayer of gratitude for all of your tech people, because they have kept us making meaning and sustaining ourselves. Lo, what feels like these many years. For all of us who make meaning together, we come into these places to invite ourselves to live a different way. And I want to encourage you to check out your own congregational newsletters to find out the actions and activities that are happening in the life of your congregation in the coming weeks. And of course, to keep showing up. We are headed on this roving band of meaning making, indeed, to the Arlington Unitarian Church next week, and then to Cedar Lane at the end of the month. We make more meaning when we make it together. What a blessing it is to have come to this place, to take a deep breath, look out across the work that awaits, and find strength and courage for the journey. And so, may you go then to be who you already are. You are the beloved and precious children of everything that is sacred in this world and a great many things beyond it, and the goodness and mercy, the joy and the justice, the power and the possibility of the Spirit are at loose in you in this moment and in the days to come, set loose by you in the world. So go then to be who you already are, and may you be abundantly blessed. Our service is ended. Amen. And blessed be.